Hello. I wanted to put together a quick video to help address some concerns that people have raised with me around the building, and also just concerns that people in general out on the web, Twitter, and so forth, have been uh, people have been kind of doomsaying about this new artificial intelligence tool named ChatGPT that was released on November 30th. They think that it's going to be the end of higher education or the education system in the United States in general. And we've gone through this before. Education continually faces new challenges and needs to transform as technology evolves. When the pocket calculator came out in the 70s, a lot of folks thought that was it for math education, that students wouldn't need to learn math anymore. And we know that that's not the case. And we know that calculators have become almost an essential tool in teaching mathematical concepts in middle school and high school today. So, what once is a something that terrifies us, that we're afraid of, and that may destroy us, most commonly becomes a tool that we can use to do things that we were not able to do before in the education system. So I wanted to give you a quick overview of what ChatGPT is all about, and show you some ways that you could have students use it in a productive way, and also how you as a teacher might be able to use it. So the first thing is that to get to the site, you just go to chat.openai.com, and I'll provide a link with this video down below. If you do that, you'll come to this page asking you to sign up or sign in. Now, since we use Google accounts and I'm signed in into my PVP account right now, I'm just going to say log in. I don't need to do sign up. And then do continue with Google. It may ask me, the first time you do this, it's going to ask for a phone number, and it's going to send you a text message with a 6-digit PIN code, just to authenticate and make sure that you are a unique user on the system. So I don't have to get that call because I've already signed in and been playing around with the tool. Now, while we wait for it to log in, just to point out, so the tool is designed to be conversational. So it's intended for you to be able to speak to it in uh, regular conversational English, and it's going to try to reply in a similar fashion. Now, I'm not sure why this is taking so long, so let's refresh. Let's see what happens here. There we go. Something went wrong. Try logging in again. All right. OpenAI. Oops. Chat. OpenAI.com. There we go. And I signed in because I was trying to already, so it's authenticated me. So this is the screen you're going to get when you come in, and they're giving you some examples. They're telling you a little bit about what it can do, what it can't do. The big things to keep in mind here, and if you're going to talk to your students about this, it's really important. Just like we tell them, Wikipedia, because of its open nature, anybody can go on there and edit it. We can't 100% rely upon the information that we find there. Similar with ChatGPT. It may occasionally generate incorrect information, and it's limited in its knowledge of the world and events after 2021. They fed this system a lot of information, but it's not connected to the internet. So this is not an AI that's constantly going out and learning more and more information. It has a finite set of information that it's been taught, and it uses that and then tries to extrapolate from that using the AI algorithms that have been created. So it's important to keep in mind those limitations, and then I'm going to demonstrate to you some of the capabilities. So the first thing I'm going to show you is just a simple example of how it can be creative. So let's say I want to have, uh, can you write a haiku about, let's find something, airplanes. And it's going to come back rather quickly. That's interesting. And so it comes back: silent wings slicing air, metal bird soaring high above, leaves and clouds below. And if you stop and think about that, I mean, that's pretty incredible that it's taken haiku, airplanes, those two key words, and it's put together this kind of, metal bird soaring high, that's really, metaphorical. That's really, it's abstract. It's not something that we would expect a computer to be able to do from just the word airplane and haiku. But there you go. So that's a good demonstration of how that might work. And of course, you could, you don't have to do haiku. You could do iambic pentameter or whatever else you want to do. You can also, um, can you do another? And I think it will do another haiku about airplanes, I believe. There we go. And so we can do this as many times as we want, and will continue to try to generate new, unique haiku about airplanes. Haiku, is the plural haikus or is the plural haiku? English teachers, tell me. Fill it in on the comment below. So that's an example of just how it can be creative. You can ask it to do song lyrics, write chord progressions. You can ask it to, you can feed it some information and then ask it to write a script about that topic. So you could copy and paste a large set of text, paste it in there and say, turn this into a play, and it will try to do that. So there's lots of opportunity to experiment and play around here. A couple of things about the interface. So you're typing here and then it's going to type its response. I would strongly recommend, especially for factual type things, just to, if you're interested in helping the AI get better, thumbs up or thumbs down the answers, depending on whether you find them to be good or bad. You can have multiple chats going at the same time. You just click the new chat button and each chat will appear here. So you can have multiple threads. It remembers your conversation within your chat. So as long as you keep the same chat open, it can use things that you've already discussed in future responses to you. So if you want to kind of clear its memory and start from scratch, then you would just create a new chat and start over again. Okay, so I'm actually gonna just create a new chat right now. And it won't do anything until after I put my first question in, and then it'll appear over here on the left. So how might I use this in the classroom? So the thing about ChatGPT it's like a Google search, right? Like you can type in search phrases, it'll give you a response. Google gives you a number of different pages. It usually gives you a little synopsis. Usually it extracts from Wikipedia and puts a little bit at the top of your search results. And ChatGPT can do stuff like that. It can give you information. It doesn't necessarily cite where it's getting it from because it's not getting the information from any one source. It's taking all of its information and synthesizing and creating its own thing out of it. So ChatGPT in its nature isn't plagiarizing. It's taking information and paraphrasing and rephrasing it and combining new information with it. So I'm going to, let's say we were doing, I don't know, I'm not going to worry about what subject we're dealing with here. It is a sort of an abstract topic that leaves room for a lot of exploration that I played around with a little bit. So suppose we wanted to have our students do some research into American cuisine, the history and evolution of American cuisine. So I can say, write a history of American cuisine. And it's going to start off giving me a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm going to pause this so that I can save some time and wait for the whole response. Okay, so chatbot was very generous in its response to my question about the history of American cuisine. And it's interesting because when I did this earlier as a test, it actually kind of gave me a little bit more as like a bullet point. It broke it down into periods, and then it had like such and such a period, such and such a period, such and such a period. So now it's written it a little bit more as in an essay format. So I'm not going to read all of this, but I'm going to, I'll scroll slowly so you can see everything that it wrote. And you can pause the screen if you want to be able to, read it fully and see everything. But so you can see it started talking about Native American populations, and then it went to the European colonists. And then it talks about population growth. It talks about American slaves and their contributions, Chinese immigrants, Italian immigrants. And then it talks a little bit about more modern 20th century and moving forward 21st century dishes. So there's a great start. So if I did a Google search on this, I would get similar types of results, but this is really giving it to me in a digestible, much simpler format than trying to go through a bunch of Google's search results and figure out which pages are good and which pages are not good. The thing that you cannot do with Google that you can do with a chatbot is ask clarifying questions or dig deeper into specific topics here. So you could say, like, what do you mean that, you know, let's say the industrialization of food production led to widespread availability of processed and convenient foods. So, what do you mean by industrialization of food production? Industrialization. What do you mean by? And I'll pause and let the answer come out. Okay, so the response I got to what do you mean by industrialization? I got 3 paragraphs that talks a little bit about what industrialization of food production is all about. One of the interesting things you'll notice is on the last paragraph, it's referring back to my previous question. So it's tying this back into American cuisine specifically because it knows that was my prior question and that it provided that. But as long as I stay in this chat, remember I said it will remember the things that you talked about. Now, I can do things like as a student, or you could also use this as a teacher. Can you simplify that? Simplify that for me. And I will pause. Okay, so when I ask it to simplify, it takes those 3 paragraphs and turns it into a single paragraph. And you can see a lot of the same languages in there, but it's definitely been broken down into a simpler bite. So you can use this to adjust the responses, the information you're getting based on the reading level of your students, for example. It's even possible to take some text that you have that you feel like, I would love to use this in my class, but I think the reading level is too high for my students. Try copying and pasting the text in here and say, simplify this, colon, and then paste all of your text in. And it's going to do its best to try to simplify and break down the text that you just pasted in a simpler format. So that's a way that you can try to use this tool within your classes to kind of differentiate and get different reading levels for different types of students on an assignment, for example. So now what I want to do, I don't know why that didn't go away, is I want to go and drill down a little bit more. So it was talking about the impact of slavery. Where it was? Oh, it was the first question, right? So it talked about how slavery from slaves from Africa introduced dishes like gumbo, jambalaya, and so forth. So I can say something like, provide more detail on African slaves and their contributions. Now, notice I don't say contributions to what. It should be able to infer from what I said. I'm talking about their contributions to cuisine. And there we go. African slaves played a significant role in the development of American cuisine, particularly in the southern United States. I'll pause and let it render the rest of its stuff. Okay, so the response I got in its entirety, again, it's 4 paragraphs long now, and I've got a breakdown of, where southern United States, talks a little bit about plantations is the reason why they were brought here. And then it goes into talking about soul food, fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread, black-eyed peas. And it talks about things like gumbo, jambalaya, hop and john. So it talks about a number of different dishes and a couple of different ways that it influenced regionally cuisine in America. So maybe I want to know some examples. What are some more examples of soul food? And I'll pause and let it do its thing. Okay, so I got a brief, definition of soul food, and then some examples. I got 8 examples: fried chicken, collard greens, cornbread, black-eyed peas, barbecue ribs, sweet potato pie, mac and cheese, fried okra. And it decided for each of those different examples that it would give some details about what it is in case we're not sure how fried chicken is prepared or whatever. So again, it's kind of doing more than just what I asked it for. It's inferring and it's making its own judgment calls about what information it's going to present and how it's going to present it to you. And that's where the follow up interactions are so good with this system. So this is a rabbit hole we can keep going down. We can keep digging down more. I could say, give me five recipes for mac and cheese or something like that, and it will do it. So you can really, really explore and gain knowledge from the system. And so as teachers, we want to look at how we can leverage this for our students, right? Come up with a topic, ask the students to use the chat GPT to drill down into it, to get information, to explore and kind of personalize as they go along in their chat dialogues. They'll ask specific questions that will take them in different directions than other students will. Um, Though the funniest thing about this is that you will not be able to completely predict exactly what the students are going to get from the system, which is nice in some ways, but also scary in another way, especially if the information they're getting isn't accurate and true. So we obviously want to reinforce to students that a single source of information is never enough, that we always have to go and cross-reference and to fact check things, right? And that's just good media literacy in the 21st century. Um, how can you as a teacher use this? Well, the simplest thing, one of the craziest things you can do is I can say, write a lesson plan on African slave, write a lesson plan on the contribution to American cuisine, contribution to American cuisine made by African slaves. And actually, I'm going to say write a lesson plan for middle school students on the contribution to American cuisine made by African slaves. And I'm going to pause yet again because it's going to take a while. Okay, wowie. So, write a lesson plan for middle school students. Oh, typo. Don't worry about it. On the contribution to American cuisine made by African slaves. So, the response lesson title Exploring the Contribution of American Slaves to American Cuisine. Okay, that's pretty much taking my language and just reiterating it there. But look at this objective. Students will learn about the role that African slaves played in the development of American cuisine and will consider the lasting impact of their contributions. I never said anything about the development of American cuisine, right? I just said what contributions were made. It's saying, okay, it was involved in the development and will have a lasting impact moving forward, right? So it's synthesizing and coming up with sort of new stuff. Then it gives a list of some materials, warm-up activity, an introduction, the direct instruction portion, some guided practice, some independent practice. So, it's talking about having students in groups, making posters, the independent practices. Oh, no, I guess that's the independent practices. Have the students make posters, um, and share them with each other. The assessment says you could use the posters or presentations as a form of assessment. It gives you the closure, and then use class participation as an assessment. And so this is a pretty lengthy lesson plan, and we need to flesh it out. It needs more detail to be able to actually execute in the classroom, but it gives you a great outline and ideas for how you might go about teaching a lesson. Then I could say something like, write five, let's not use that word, provide five writing prompts. Didn't want to use the word writing twice. Provide five writing prompts for students related to this uh, as an assessment for this lesson. And I'm not going to say what lesson. I'm going to assume that it knows what lesson I'm talking about. So I'm going to let this one ride through and we'll read it together. So, write a short essay explaining the significance of soul food in the southern United States and how it reflects the cultural influences and experiences of African slaves. Write a paragraph explaining how one of the soul food dishes that you researched has evolved over time and how it's been influenced by different cultural traditions. Write a short story about a character who's preparing and enjoying a soul food meal and describe the cultural influences and traditions that are reflected in the dishes being served. Write a persuasive essay arguing that soul food should be recognized and celebrated as an important part of American culinary heritage. And five, write a reflection on the lessons that you learned in this lesson about the contributions of African slaves to American cuisine and how these contributions continue to be reflected in the dishes we eat today. So again, is that plagiarism? Is that, if I used this to make a lesson, am I cheating by doing that? Or am I using the tools at my disposal to make my work easier, and to think outside the box? I argue that it's the latter. I argue that this can be a great tool for us to use as educators to brainstorm and come up with ideas, to explore things. And then we need to work on teaching our students those same skills: the inquisitiveness, the ability to drill down, to find information, to explore it, to cross reference and make sure you have other sources. Right. So this is not something that's going to destroy our educational process. It's not going to destroy higher education. What it is going to do is it's going to force us to rethink the types of assignments that we give students, right? We can no longer say, expect our students to just memorize, stuff like who was the 32nd president of the US. Obviously, they can do this on any system, Google or whatever, but I can use this obviously to look up simple facts, but notice even this, it's giving me a lot more information than just the answer to the question. It could have just said Franklin Delano Roosevelt, but it's talking about the Great Depression, World War II, right? So this looks a little bit more like what we might get with a Google search that's pulling from Wikipedia to highlight at the top of our search engine. So anyway, that's a brief introduction to what the ChatGPT software can do. This is the new world we live in. AI is coming. Now, this is limited, like I said, because of how it's not connected to the internet. But you imagine all of the information on the internet that's constantly being created on a daily basis, and an AI that's constantly learning from all that information. The possibilities are nearly limitless, really. So I hope this kind of sets you at ease a little bit, lets you understand a little bit more what this tool is that everybody is talking about, and maybe gives you some ideas of how you might use it in your own classroom. What I would say is please use the comments at the bottom to share ideas with each other, or start an email thread here at school talking about these different ideas. But I think that collaborating and having conversations with each other about how this tool may impact our work going forward would be a really helpful thing for many of us working here. So anyway, share your ideas. I hope you enjoyed this, and don't be afraid of the machines.